What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Criterion Corner. This is a segment on my channel where I talk about films in the Criterion collection, whether that's physically in the collection or streaming on the Criterion channel's streaming service. And the movie I'm going to be talking about with you today is one that I have been really excited to revisit over the years. This is a movie that I watched when I was much younger, and I feel like it was relatively before my critical thinking skills about specifically like avant-garde and more surrealist filmmaking were present. And this is from filmmaker Terrence Malick, who I think is an incredibly talented filmmaker. I think the only movie, and I can't remember if I reviewed it on the channel or not, that I've talked about in any sort of detail of his was the film A Hidden Life, which I think is absolutely beautiful. I adored that movie, thought it was amazing. And I've been really looking forward to watching this movie because I know it is held in very high regard. People talk about this movie a ton when they talk about some of the greatest films ever in existence. And the movie I'm going to be discussing with you today is The Tree of Life. The Tree of Life is directed by Terrence Malick. The impressionistic story of a Texas family in the 1950s. The film follows the life journey of eldest son Jack through the innocence of childhood to his disillusioned adult years as he tries to reconcile a complicated relationship with his father. Jack finds himself a lost soul in the modern world, seeking answers to the origins and meaning of life while questioning the existence of faith. So I was super excited to watch this movie. Like I said, I watched it when I was relatively younger, I would say in my early 20s, where I don't feel like my perception of film was the same that it is now in my mid 30s. And what I will say is this movie is incredible. I think that it is truly remarkable what Terrence Malick was able to pull off here. And while for me personally, not everything about the film works perfectly, I can't help but the more I sit with it, admire so much about what he does here. And I think that it's a movie that I'm just going to grow to appreciate more and more on subsequent revisits. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about it today. So, trying to explain the plot of this movie seems kind of silly, but I'm going to do my best to try to explain it. So, this is a movie that kind of jumps back and forth through periods of time, but it's focused on the character of Jack, who most of the film is portrayed by a young kid, but at certain points in the film is portrayed by Sean Penn. And in the movie, we are kind of given the impression that he is reflecting back on moments of his life between the relationship between his mother and father, played by Brad Pitt and Jessica Chastain. And he's sort of experiencing these feelings about growing up and the way that he was raised and the very different methods that his parents took to raise him and his siblings. And as we learn early on in the movie, he had a brother that at 19 years old died, and it sort of shook up the dynamic of their family. And we don't really see that moment in life very much. It's mostly fixated on before and the young and the parts of their childhood where they were really starting to establish themselves and understand more about who these people are and how they operate. And we're also cut in a lot of footage of nature about the creation of Earth, and we're given a lot of monologues from specific characters discussing themes of life, death, identity, relationship with God, or search for some sort of deity. And the film is sort of this existential conversation of this character sort of reflecting on who they were as a person and how it's sort of shaped who they have become, and discovering ideologies and belief systems and all of these different themes that you can pull apart from this movie. So like I said, I think this movie is really a remarkable feat, even if not all of it works for me perfectly. And I do want to talk about some of the things in the movie I love. For starters, this might be some of the most gorgeous cinematography that I've ever seen in a movie, period. There are some shots in this movie that will be etched in my brain for the remainder of time. I think Terrence Malick, one of the things that I've always loved about him as a filmmaker is his ability to create very captivating, very remarkable shots with his cinematographer, and this movie feels like a dream in a lot of moments. It's like you almost forget that you're watching a narrative film because it's not really structured like a narrative film whatsoever, and the cinematography sort of complements that, where you're just moving along through these scenes. And what I really like is throughout the different periods of the character's life, it feels like there's a lot of intentionality to the way certain scenes are conveyed or how long the camera will hold on a moment. It's almost like experiencing fragmented moments of memory, which is one of the things that I really liked about it. I just could not get over how incredible some of the visuals in this were, and like some of the transitionary sequences, and just the way that Terrence Malick throughout his career has always really paid amazing attention to detail to those specific things. And I really loved that a lot about this. All the performances in the movie are really great. Specifically, though, Brad Pitt and Jessica Chastain are phenomenal in this. I feel like they're really the two that kind of hold it together. The young actors do a really great job, but I feel like because their presence is so pivotal to what the film is trying to discuss, their performances and some of the moments where they have to have really heavily emotional dialogue and confrontational dialogue and a lot of things that, hold your attention as a viewer. I was just really completely and totally impressed by how amazing both of them did. And Sean Penn, when he had his moments, like he's not in the movie a lot for an almost 2.5 hour runtime, but I feel like while he was on screen, he did a really phenomenal job. And I also truly loved the musical choices in this. Very grandiose. It really sort of feels representative thematically of what the movie is trying to explore, because these are a lot of ideas that aren't easily discussable. It's things, not a lot of these things have a finite answer, especially when it comes to the search for a higher power or the question of like what life is or how you've reacted to the way you're raised or what your purpose is, or like, even reflecting back on like the ideas that your parents have taught you as a young person. Like none of these things are easy to sort of digest, and I think having that grandiose swelling music sort of accompany all these really complex themes and ideas, it makes the movie so much more of an incredible viewing experience. And that's what I love so much about this. I mean, I could go into 10 different conversations with you about what the movie is trying to convey, but I feel like so much more of what this movie is it's just like living an experience. We don't really dive a whole lot into certain traits of like the young characters or like who they are, like things about them. It seems almost like Malick wants to give you close to a blank slate to try to relate to them, and mostly like the base level experiences of what kids deal with when they're growing up. I feel like the biggest personality that you get in the movie is a character like Brad Pitt's, where you're trying to understand like his aspirations and the things that he was trying to do with his life that he's not feeling fulfilled in. And I think that that's a really interesting approach to the filmmaking, and you do learn what Jack becomes and like what Sean Penn's character is. He's an architect, he's doing this very grand job, but I really love that like utilizing this format gives you the ability to explore these themes, because they discuss that the way that his character was raised is very different. Brad Pitt's character is very much like a hard person who thinks that the world is mean and cruel to you and that you have to like watch out for yourself and ensure you're not being taken advantage of. There's a lot more violence and anger under the surface in the way that he raises his children versus just the way that Jessica Chastain raises her children, which is with a much more compassionate, empathetic, caring lens. And it's interesting to see the conflicting ideas, and then like when they have issues in their day-to-day life and how that comes across. I just thought that that was a really interesting way to approach the movie, because that's so true to most people's experiences, because your parents aren't necessarily, the same type of person. They can have different ideas and beliefs as to how the world works and operates. And I thought that was interesting. And then the conversations surrounding God and a higher power in the movie, and like the conflicting relationship of our character with those themes, even though it seems that his parents were heavily religious, there's a lot of conversations sort of surrounding faith and belief system. And I thought it was all done in a way that like might not necessarily give you a finite answer, but it's like doing a really great job at asking a lot of questions that you want to sit with and sort of digest for long after the movie was over. And I would say if there's any issues that I have with the movie, some of the moments where it's really chaotic in its structure, I had a hard time sitting with. And I didn't find some of the more emotional moments to hit me as hard because of how sort of chaotic this is paced. Like some of the moments I felt harder to connect with emotionally than others, and maybe it was just where my head was at in that particular moment. But I do think this is a modern marvel of filmmaking. I think it's absolutely incredible. It's definitely one of the best movies ever made. I think that if you're interested in surreal art house avant-garde filmmaking that really does not adhere to any semblance of a normal narrative structure, that poses some really fantastic questions that even I feel like I can't articulate perfectly when I discuss, Tree of Life is definitely worth watching. So have you seen The Tree of Life? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was remarkable, and even though everything didn't resonate with me perfectly, I still think it's an incredible piece of filmmaking. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.